G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it.
We'll have all the show notes and any resources mentioned in the cast on our website. In 2005, aged 22, and after accidentally firing herself from corporate, Carissa started consulting in anything with a simple drive to help small businesses. Soon after, she pivoted to an online training offering called Silver Lining Action Plan, or SLAP. It has now helped over 10,000 small businesses around the world. They reduced fees from $2,000 a month to $300, and their success rate is 70 to 80%, which is measured on the goals the business owners set themselves before starting their 13-month program. From 1 FTE to now over 40, the team is in 14 countries and went remote 8 years ago before it was cool for COVID. Their next move is to offer small business lending loans based on SLAP behaviour. For culture, they focus on team wellness, extra holidays and unlimited time away policy. Felt she'd succeeded when moments of success, but not there yet. Hardest thing about growing a small business is juggling the complexity of volume of things to do. What Carissa would tell herself on day one of starting out is, it's going to be okay, pace yourself, don't do it alone. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Carissa Reiniger from Silver Lining. Thanks for your time this morning, Carissa.
Thanks so much for having me.
Let's start with how we know each other. Again, that's an easy one. Peter's been doing a great job, our podcast editor, reaching out to female business owners so we can balance up the guests 50-50. We're almost there, which is great. So thanks for responding to him.
No, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. And it's nice to be talking to a fellow Australian. I feel like I'm almost honorary Australian. So
yeah, no, I can hear that very thick Melbourne accent you've got there.
You can hear it in my voice, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you said before the call, you're originally from Canada and you've just, you're in Melbourne now. Your partner's from Melbourne and you like to spend 3 months a year catching our summer, which is a great idea. And then back in the Northern Hemisphere. You're based in New York, were you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's a complicated geographical picture, but yeah, from Canada. I've lived in New York for 11 years. And then spend about 3 months a year in Melbourne and have been doing that for, over the last 8 years.
Yeah, great. The only disappointing thing I found out before the call was that you're a Collingwood supporter and I'm Carlton, so we won't talk about that. Your hockey team, though, you said Edmonton, no, you better say it. Peter will clean that up.
The Edmonton Oilers, yes.
Right. Wayne Gretzky's team, yeah. What a legend.
Yeah, we had, I grew up as in the 80s where if anyone is listening knows anything about hockey, the one thing you may know is Wayne Gretzky. And he was, of course, a legend. And so we had this very fun childhood, winning lots of Stanley Cups, loving our hockey team. Edmonton is as fanatic about hockey as Australia is about footy.
Yep.
But as I was saying, unfortunately, our team has been terrible for literally the last 20 years. So they've tested my love, but.
Well, Gretzky's on my business quote list there. I love that his saying, which was skate to where the puck is going to be.
Yes. Yeah, he was phenomenal. And he was a nice guy too. We met him, as kids at different team events and things like that. And yeah, he was great. Amazing.
Well, tell the audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, so we it's called Silver Lining. We work with small businesses to help them grow. So I started it in 2005. And our mission at a micro level is to help individual small business owners become more profitable and sustainable. At a macro level, we really believe that every time a small business grows, it's an act of justice because, when a small business grows, it's not just adding wealth to billionaires, it is creating opportunities for families, for jobs, for communities, for the economy.
Well, isn't it most countries, more than 50% of jobs are for small businesses, not government, not big, large businesses?
Yeah, and even more than 50%. Yeah, small business owners. And listen, 2020 has sort of given us a dose of reality around what the world would look like without small business. And it's not good. I mean, right? Our streets look bare. We live in a world full of big box retail and banks and pharmacies. We need small business, both because it adds a huge element of quality of life to our day-to-day life. But it is a massive driver of the economy. It's a forgotten segment. People are obsessed with tech startups. We're looking and talking about big corporations and big moves and mergers and acquisitions. But the real sort of drip driver of the economy in the kind of a steady, significant way is absolutely small business.
Yeah.
So yeah, helping them succeed is crucial. So we have essentially it's a software as a service program based in behavior change science that helps businesses get really clear on what they're trying to accomplish, set a 1-year financial goal, build an action plan to hit that goal. And then once the plan is built, which only takes about 3 hours, for the next 12 months, we wrap strategy, coaching, accountability, training, community, gamification, motivation, all of the things that behavior change science says you need. We wrap that around the business owner to help them actually follow that plan and hit that goal.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like fun, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's. I feel like all of us entrepreneurs who are a little competitive, there is a fun element to it where it's like, I'm going to win my own plan and I'm going to beat everyone else. There is a little bit of that.
Yep. And so how do you make money from that? Like, what's the model? Is it a subscription-based monthly fee or annual?
Yeah, subscription in a normal world before COVID, it was $300 a month. And then we have sort of pricing equivalencies in different countries that we do business in. When COVID hit, we made it pay what you can. And our philosophy was that we had something that we could use to help small businesses through this really hard time. And it was our sort of desire and our responsibility to make sure that it was accessible to people. So it is pay what you can until we're through the crisis, which I think will take a while, but usually $300 a month.
Yeah. And how did you find people responding to that? Because some people can feel a bit awkward about having to name their own price, etc. Did any learnings from that?
Yeah. A lot. I would say 3 things. One is it was really interesting listening to sort of my advisors and my peers and, people who were thinking about me. Half the people thought we were real pioneers and we were really stepping up and doing the right thing. Half the people thought I was totally insane and I'd lost my mind. So that's just over there. The second thing is for the business owners that we work with, I mean, if we hadn't done this, I think we would be in a worse position, to be honest. Small business owners are in such a hard position right now, by and large, that I think we would have lost business because they would have had to cancel and save money wherever they can. And instead, we've gained business. Our customer base has grown a lot through this period. So, if I think about this from a long game point of view, not a short game point of view, it's great for our business. We're helping lots of people when they hopefully need us the most. We're doing right by them. And we're growing our customer base. And, as the economy comes back to a state of, stability, then hopefully the amount they pay will go back to normal over the next 24 months. The third thing, which is I think the most important thing, is that the small business, it's mattered a lot to the business owners. We've just had the most beautiful conversations. We designed the whole experience so that it's on our website. There's no questions asked. You don't have to get on the phone and sort of prove that you're struggling. We tried to make it really full of dignity. So you go to the website, you click the pay what you can button, you put the amount that you can. We've got some guiding questions to help you think about what you can pay. And then you register. So we've tried to be really conscious that A, we're all in this together. B, it's okay if you don't have the full amount. C, we're going to let you do it with dignity. We're not going to make it an awkward process. And D, my hope is, and I think that it's mostly been true, we're doing it as an act of sort of support and love and camaraderie and being in it together. And that really is largely how it's been accepted. We've just had some really beautiful moments with the small businesses that we work with. And it's actually been great. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, great. Out of interest, has anyone paid over the $300?
No. Well, actually, I should take that back. One person is paying over the 300. Very few people are still paying the full 300. I think it's literally 5% of our customer base. And interestingly, the range then after that is literally some people are paying $5. I mean, that's just what they have. Their stores or their businesses are shut down. I mean, they are living in sort of the red. And even in that reality, they're trying to sign up. They want the help. I actually think that $5 a month is a sign of incredible tenacity that someone is still fighting, right, when they're a reality. And then, everything in between.
But there wouldn't be much of a marginal cost there, would there, for any sale? Because it's subscription-based, cloud-based. I guess you run the group accountability sessions. So what I'm getting at is if a heap of people piled in at $5, you potentially are still making some money because it's quite scalable, your business model.
Our business model is very scalable. We do have costs associated with it. So, the best way to think about it is, so it's software as a service, and I always say it's like big software, but it's also big service. And one of the things behavior change science says, and this is just hopefully helpful for any of us who are trying to hit our goals. If you want to accomplish your goals, you need sort of this structure, these pillars of support around you. And the literal science says that you need to set a modest goal, rigorously track behavior, build self-efficacy. You can do that inside the software. But in addition to that, you need outside coaching and support, peer community. There's a sort of this structure. So if you think about when you join a gym, or if you join Weight Watchers or a 12-step program, right? There's kind of these elements of structure and support that get wrapped around you to help you hit your goal. We've taken that exact science, but applied it to small business. So we have a very high human touch, but built in a very scalable way. As an example, our software is running algorithms all day long, trying to run sort of if scenarios, right? Did Troy do this? Did Troy do that? Did Troy do that? Oh, Troy did that. And then it sends a message to our Slap Manager team, which is our sort of accountability and mindset team, and then they reach out to you. So every small business gets to speak with a Slap expert once a month for a one-on-one strategy conversation. Yep. Our Slap experts are people who have built multi-million-dollar businesses and are kind of giving back and helping. And then our Slap Manager team worked with us full-time, and their full-time job is just to help every single business owner get what they need to succeed, stay on track, do mindset calls, and they're available 24/7 unlimited. So we do have, we definitely have hard costs associated with the business. When we're charging $300 a month, our profit margins are great. Yeah. When it's pay what you can, it gets a bit dicey. So one of the things that we did is we looked at where we could cut our costs. And our Slap experts have all started donating their time, which is a big chunk of our costs. Yeah. And that has saved us. That has been a gift from all of them to help us help as many people as possible.
Great. Yeah, the reason I asked if anyone paid above $300, we launched the Distillers Institute online course 3 or 4 months ago, and it's anyone in Australia or New Zealand thinking about starting a distillery business. It's a course to help them to, get to the decision gate, whether it's for them or not, and then give them support tools. By that end of that course, they've written a business plan, they've got a financial model, and they've filled out the government paperwork to be able to order their stills, for example. But we had a promotion on, we had a sales webinar on a few weeks ago, and at the end of it had a very short-term promotion discount at the end, and we got a really good conversion rate. But one email came back in. So they attended the sales webinar. It went really well. It was about a bit over an hour long, and we had some students that had been through the course on right at the end, 5-10 minutes raving about it. But this email said, I'm not going to take up the discount. I'm paying full price because it's just what you provide is so much value. And the webinar the other day, just proved that. And if anything, you're not charging enough. So that really put a cat amongst the pigeon. My co-founders and I at our next meeting thinking, well, maybe we need to go back and revisit our pricing.
No, you want to get that feedback. That's great feedback.
Yeah. Well, tell the audience how you started out.
Yeah, so I started actually when I was 22. My degree is in psychology, and I had moved from Edmonton to Toronto right out of university. And I was lucky enough to get a job in business development at a big global ad agency in Toronto. But being very young and very female, I was sort of navigating the realities of that. And I started just going to small business networking events to meet people. I was brand new to the city of Toronto. I didn't know anyone. And as I met all these small business owners who I was, I was really looking for friends, but what I found was friends and, the realization that these business owners were so passionate, so committed, so smart, so creative, so talented, all these amazing things. And yet every one of them that I spoke to was sort of struggling to find new customers, to get to profitability, to get to sustainability, to solve cash flow issues, to figure out their business strategy. And so because business development was something that I really enjoyed and I, was decently good at, I just, in my spare time, evenings and weekends, started going for coffees with business owners, trying to help them build plans and find customers. And because my brain is very process oriented, like a good German, I started just building a worksheet for those sessions so that we could be more efficient and I could sort of build a system around it. And that eventually turned into Slap. And one day I was at my real job and I just had this moment where I thought, this is not what I'm meant to do in the world. Like, I am not meant to sell advertising. Like that is not my job. Yep. That is not what I want to do. And so I talked to my boss thinking, oh, well, I'm being honest, I'm being open. And I essentially got walked out, and I wasn't quitting. I was just saying, listen, I don't think I want to do this long-term. So long story long, I learned a big lesson that day.
Hang on, they literally walked you out that day?
So essentially, in the world of advertising, business development is so cutthroat that there's such fear that if you leave from one agency to go to another agency, you're going to take your deals with you. And they just thought that was too much of a risk. So yes, I literally was sort of like, I went to work not thinking I was going to quit. I left at 2:00 in the afternoon without a job.
You fired yourself.
Yeah. And I remember just literally walking home and thinking, all right, I guess I know what I got to do. I'll help small businesses. And so I spent the first year just talking to any small business that would talk to me, doing any work anyone would pay me for, if it was $100, just anything that would help me really understand what the need was. I made a commitment to myself that I would interview one business owner a day for a year, so that I really was building a company that was small business first, not, what I thought. And all of that turned into our SLAP methodology, and then ultimately the business that we've been building.
Great. So, and what age were you when you fired yourself?
22.
Yep. Great.
Ignorance is bliss, I always say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, youthful exuberance, and you've got plenty of time on your side, and you can take heaps of risks.
And you're just naive. You have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, that helps.
That helps a lot.
Great. And do you have some key numbers to illustrate the growth of the business over the years?
Yeah, so we've worked with over 10,000 small businesses, which we're really proud of. We've worked with those small businesses in over 20 countries. So I think it's 22 countries now. We've been able to, we measure our success on a couple of factors. So obviously, number one, the number of businesses that we serve. Number two, the monthly recurring revenue that represents, because we're a subscription business. I didn't raise capital, but for all intents and purposes, we're a tech company. And so that monthly subscription revenue number is a big number for cash flow, but B, for valuation. So we're tracking that. We track our profit margin, which allows us to really understand what our cost of goods is, control expenses. And then we track the success rate of our small businesses, which I ultimately believe is the most important metric because it's one thing if they like us. It's a very different thing if they're actually succeeding, if our program is actually working. And so over the course of the years, a couple of the things that, we've thought a lot about is how do we get our price point as low as possible? So our price point used to be $2,000 a month. Now it's $300 a month.
Right.
And the value is higher. So that's a big thing that we've been tracking. How do we keep getting value higher? Price point lower. So that's a massive metric we're proud of. Obviously, consistently growing customer base and monthly recurring revenue. And obviously that's grown by, exponential rates in the last 10 years. And then the success rate of the small businesses is the big one. So right now, and it fluctuates, by the day as we look at our data, but our success rate is between 70 and 80%, meaning for every 100 businesses that use our program, 70 to 80 of them will hit the financial goal that they set.
Right.
And that is, that ultimately is, in my opinion, our ultimate number of success.
Yeah, that is a really good measure. And I also like that you've got behavioral psychology behind this as well. So you know what is actually going to help these small business owners make the changes, build the habits to succeed.
Yeah, it's a big, it's interesting. I've been in this space for so long, and it's not bad, but so much of the small business programming that's out there, right, it's webinar based, it's mentorship based, and it's all pieces of what businesses need, but very rarely is it all put together in sort of a comprehensive behavioral change structure. And so that's what I would say. We're not really doing anything that's all that innovative. What is innovative is that we've brought it all together. So it's one comprehensive structure. And then we've made it very technology enabled, which means that we actually are enabling a higher touch experience, but we can do that in an affordable way because so much of the tech is driving our systems and processes, and the data is driving the outreaches. So using technology is allowing us to, help the businesses better and actually, ironically, deliver a higher human touch, which are two things that, are necessary to implement this behavior change piece properly.
Yeah, right. And anything else on growth numbers, number of team members from when you started out, I assume just on your own, to FTE that you have now?
Yep. So obviously we started with just me. It's interesting. I view team members as an interesting metric. At our highest number of full-time employees, we had 43. But one of the, and I'd be curious for your thoughts on this, one of the things that I have come to realize over the course of my entrepreneurial journey is that just tracking against top level revenue and just tracking against, for example, team count is actually, in my opinion, not ideal growth metrics. Because I did this, right? At one point we were generating $4 million a year in revenue, but our expenses were 4.1 million, right? Would I rather have that business, right? Or would I rather have a business generating, I don't know, $1 million in revenue with $500,000 in expenses and $500,000 in profit? So what I've really had to rethink, like, what is success? And so yes, obviously we track revenue, but we watch that profit margin number a lot more closely because that allows us to scale, right? If I only look at revenue, I could get obsessed with driving revenue, but I want to build a profitable, sustainable business. So I'm looking at revenue plus profit margin so that I can scale.
Yeah.
On staff count, I think right now we have 18 full-time staff, but that's on purpose, right? We use a lot of freelancers. We use a lot of contractors. We've made a decision as a company to try to outsource as much as we can to small businesses to drive the economy wherever we can. All of our SLAP experts are contractors. They're not staff. And I've done an incredible amount of work to use technology to automate as much as possible to decrease our overhead so that we can get our price point down. Yep. So I actually think that, if we can deliver on the amount we deliver on with the staff size that size, that's actually a testament to our efficiency, our operations. So that's a long answer to your question, but the journey around how we measure our success is something that I've thought a ton about, especially in the last 5 years.
Yep, that's a question in a minute, but just want to circle back. So if you polled back in the freelancers and the contractors, you're probably still in the 40s as in full-time equivalent, whether they're an employee on the books or, people working on the business. That's still amazing growth. It's just one way to measure it. But it's an interesting point that you make there. I had Tina Tower on the interviewed her the other week. That her cast is going live, I think, next week. And she built up she was a primary school teacher, started a tutoring business for primary school kids, and then also had a physical store selling kids books and toys, I think. Built that up for 3 stores of her own in 7 years. And she started age 20, got married at 21, had first child at 24, second child at 25. At age 27, decided to start franchising. I mean, I said to her, you're making me feel so lazy. Yeah. And then age 27, 7 years in, she started franchising, built that up to 35 franchisees before she sold the thing. But she said, after 13 years, she sold. She said, but we were more profitable. It was all vanity, like top line growth, number of franchisees. But we were making more money at 22 franchisees as opposed to 35.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I had that issue as well, right? We grew really quickly when I first started. We sort of hit our first million in the first year and we just kept going. And I was winning all these awards and I was, the youngest woman in Canada, building $1 million business, all of these all of these vanity plays.
Yep.
In the background, the truth of that, right, was that our overhead was way too high. We had offices in 4 cities. We had all these leases. We had all these full-time employees. Our price point was too high for small businesses to be able to afford. Our business model wasn't right. And so it looked good. I had growing revenue every year. I had growing staff count and it looked great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we were winning awards. It looked awesome. But it wasn't a good business. It wasn't actually profitable. It certainly wasn't sustainable. It definitely wasn't scalable because our metrics were such that the more we grew, the more in trouble we got, not the more freedom we had. And so that lesson was a hard lesson. I had to learn that lesson early in my career. And it has dramatically changed how I think about success and how we've built Silver Lining. And now, we've got this great business model where the more customers we have, the more profit. Our profit margin grows with growth, which is awesome. And our overhead doesn't grow that much. There's certain elements of the business that need to scale to handle the customers, our SLAP managers, our SLAP experts. But for the most part, our management team, our operating expenses don't need to. And so that's why our profit just keeps going up.
And when was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
That's such an interesting question. The honest answer is that I feel like I have had moments of success, and I'm sort of never satisfied with what's happened. So, overall, do I feel like I have succeeded? I'm standing. I've made it past a bunch of milestones. The business is here. Yeah, it's great. I love it. I'm happy with it. Do I have a vision for so much more? Always. Would I ever? I don't think there's a part of me that would ever sit back and say,
I'm done.
I did it. I think I have enjoyed moments of reminders that the hard work is paying off. But I don't think I sit back and think about it from the point of view of success very often, to be honest.
Well, that's the next question. What does success look like to you? Do you have something clear in your mind?
So for me, the most important thing is that we help a lot of people. I'm a big believer that business is actually a great tool for justice, that business owners should be thinking about impact in addition to financial success. So the work that we've done in 2020, where technically our numbers are worse than ever financially, but our impact, I believe, is stronger than ever. To me, I'm going to look back on this year as a great year. I'm going to look back on this year as one of the highlights of my career. So number one, that we have helped as many people as possible, and we've helped them in a real and meaningful way. Not that we're just signing people up, but that their lives are better because they signed up. That's my number one definition of success. My second is that unlike sort of the typical narrative where we build and sell and exit and have this big party, I really am building Silver Lining to be here 200 years from now. I want to know that this thing outlives and outlasts me and, many more people. So I hope I might not see it in my lifetime. I think, success for me is that someone else is sitting here as the CEO of Silver Lining in many years from now, and this company continues to fight for economic justice, for small businesses, and so I might not see it.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Talk to your customers and be real. Sitting in a room and trying to decide what the marketing message should be is largely unhelpful. I always say to my team and myself and our customers, it doesn't really matter what I think. It matters what our small businesses think, right? It doesn't really matter what I think we should say. It matters what they need to hear. And it doesn't really matter what the marketing spin should be. It matters what actually will help them. So to me, good marketing is actually helpful. It's valuable. It's authentic. It's not spinny. It's speaking directly to a person in a way that feels connected as opposed to, perfect.
And funding your business, so you haven't taken any investors on or bank finance or grants, it's just all been from profits, basically, the growth?
Yeah, so we did not take capital. I went down the path of raising capital. We got some term sheets. Ultimately, I made the decision not to take the VC money because when I started Silver Lining, my determination was to be small business first. And as soon as I took those investors on, I would have had to be small business sort of first, but really I got to make these investors happy. And it would have shifted me away from the values that I started the company in. It's not that VC money is bad. It's just that it didn't match my vision and my values and my plan for this company. So I always say for a small business, the number one source of income should be revenue. I mean, the best money you can get as a small business owner is revenue. Sell something, sell anything, just keep selling things. That's number one. Number two, I think, good debt is good. I mean, getting access to affordable, reasonable debt for small businesses is really important. And there's no shame in taking out a loan and using it to grow. I think good small businesses do that often. I think for the average small business, equity is sort of the least viable reason for funding. I mean, I think if you're going to start a distillery, like you mentioned, right? Yes, you'll need startup costs. So you might want to raise some money. But for the average traditional small business, I try to recommend focus on revenue as your primary, sort of good, reasonable debt secondary, and equity third.
Yeah, good advice. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry? I think I know the answer to this.
I always say that if I wasn't doing this, I think I'd go be like an investigative reporter. Like I would be doing something totally different. But aside from making that dramatic of a change, I'd probably direct a play on Broadway. Those would be my two random, totally different things that I would do.
Well, you should talk. You should talk with Tina, because after she sold the franchise business, she went and started 6 other businesses, and one of those businesses or concept was a blockbuster kids movie. She actually flew to Hollywood, and anyway, you'll have to listen to the cast.
Yeah, I'll listen. I'll have to. Yeah,
theme there.
That's fun. Yeah, no, I am determined, whatever my silver lining and other career looks like, that I will, before I die, I will produce a documentary and I will direct a play either off or on Broadway in New York. Those are my two. Yep. Those 2 things will happen. Awesome. But no, I'm dedicated to the small business space. I think, helping small businesses succeed, focusing on economic development and economic justice is crucial. I'm in the early stages of launching actually a small business lending fund. I imagine that I've got much more work that will happen that bases out of this core work at Silver Lining.
I think that lending fund is a great idea and much needed for small businesses.
Yeah, I'm so proud of it. I'm so excited about it. We're doing unsecured loans at fair interest rates based purely on people's SLAP behavioral data. No credit.
That's great.
No cash flow.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you look at the micro lending in Africa and Southeast Asia in the early 2000s, the power that, the force that was created, and all the goodwill, all the good that was done by such a simple concept.
Totally. And I just, it's so interesting. There's this storyline that small businesses are too risky to invest in, right? To lend to. And I think that's not true. I think there's no better risk than small business.
If they've got the support, like, silver linings like yourself, if they've got the coaching, the education, and they've got the experience, then the risk is not as much as what it's generally perceived. Yeah.
Totally. And also, these are humans who work so hard, are so committed. I mean, if there's going to be someone to fight, to make it work, right? To make this thing work and not give up, it's going to be a small business owner. So we don't predict that the path to repayment will always be perfect, but we do predict that if we're compassionate and collaborative and we actually support those businesses, that we will see those funds returned and build something that really makes sense for investors and for the small businesses. So,
can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
So many. How long do you have, Troy? How long do you have?
We've got 14 minutes left to the next cast. So.
All right. So let's, the most significant, so when I had been in business for probably 4 years, we alluded to this earlier, right? Everything externally was perfect. Top of the game, on magazine covers, all the stuff. And in the reality, in the background, we were out of money, had no money. We were writing off about $400,000 of accounts receivable because small businesses, our price point was too high. It was our fault. Our small business just couldn't pay us what they owed us. We had people that I'd borrowed money from to try to make payroll the month before coming after me, putting pressure on me to get their money back. I mean, it was sort of this perfect storm of everything was due financially. Our customers couldn't afford to pay, and I wasn't going to go after them for this money. If I didn't get that money in from our customers, I had no money. I mean, there was nothing else. I don't come from big money. The revenue of the business had to sustain us. And I remember one day in particular, I got calls from staff, calls from people I had money to, calls from landlords. I mean, just at every single level, pressure was on, and I had no solution. And so coming to the point where I had to look at that reality and not just call all those people and essentially ask for more time, apologize, but B, make dramatic shifts to the business, get rid of all those offices, downsize our staff, rethink our business model. And I remember I couldn't have articulated this clearly at the time, but, hindsight is more helpful. I mean, there were 2 factors. One was the genuine financial pressure. I mean, it was a very, very, very intense period. But the other, which is I think we don't talk about enough as entrepreneurs, was just the embarrassment of it.
Yeah.
Here I am on, covers of magazines and winning awards for being this genius, young small business owner. Yeah. And in the background, I'm dying, failing, disastrously. And so it was, I waited too long to make the changes I knew I needed to make because I was worried about the embarrassment of it and what people would say about me or think about me. Yeah. And so, I learned so much through that, but it was brutal. And a lot of small businesses have been through similar.
I think it's very common, like that embarrassment thing and calling it too late or making dramatic changes. It's more common than what most people think, I believe.
Yeah, and I hope, I mean, one of my missions is I talk quite freely about the things that have gone wrong at Silver Lining, because I think that if I learned anything through that process, it was if I had talked about it faster, if I had talked about it with more people, I would have got a lot of support. Because when I finally did, I got a lot of support. People wanted to help me. People had been there, people understood. And so I suffered for longer than I needed to. And I also created more damage than I needed to because I didn't open up more quickly. And so the thing I'm still not good at it. The instinct is still to try to look like everything's always great.
But be vulnerable, drop the ego and ask for help.
Totally. Have people in your life who are asking you the hard questions, have people you feel safe with, and talk to people as much as possible. I mean, that's part of why Silver Lining, I think, is so important.
And before we move on to the next question, I've just done the numbers. So that would have been even more stressful because that would have only been a year after the GFC hit.
That's right. Yeah. And it's so funny. Again, I was so young. I was so ignorant. I don't even think that I was tracking that there was, it wasn't, that correlation was not something I was thinking about on a daily basis. All I was thinking about is, oh my God, I'm failing. Oh my God, it's like I was flooded.
Yep.
The truth is the entire economy was failing. The truth is, that $400,000 of my receivables didn't come in. My customers didn't pay us. I mean, when you look at it with full picture, there was a lot going on at that point. But
sounds like the perfect shitstorm.
Yeah, but again, our interpretation is I failed, and then that floods, and then that shuts us down. And so, but yes, it was right around that sort of 2009 timeframe.
Yep. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Two things. One, asking for help. I like to, I just sort of power through and figure it out. And so I've had to learn to ask for help. I'm still not very good at it. And two, management. One of my advisors said something that was really profound, that there's a difference between being a leader and a manager. And oftentimes natural managers are not great leaders and natural leaders are not great managers. And that was really helpful to me. I'm a natural leader. I'm not a natural manager. So I've had to work hard on sort of grounding myself and learning good skills around management.
Yeah, it's very hard. And you're right, there is a distinct difference between the two. And I still don't think there's enough resources out there for people to become better managers, particularly in small businesses. But what have you enjoyed the least about managing the fast growth?
It's a good question. I mean, I love what I do. I love everything about it. I love our businesses. I love it. What I've enjoyed the least, I would say, though, is I don't even know if I have an answer. I think I love it. It's hard, don't get me wrong, but I love it.
Yeah. Well, that was my next question. What do you love most about growing a small business? Can you pick one thing?
Yeah. So if I had to say one thing, it's seeing that something that I created out of literally nothing, is this machine that employs people and that helps all these small businesses around the world. And there's this global community of these amazing humans that I now know because this thing exists that, was not there before. I just, that always sort of confounds me and surprises me.
Yep. Great. And what's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I remember another business advisor said to me, two things I'll say. One is, he said, Carissa, you got a lot of talent, but I don't really care. Greatness is a choice. You wake up every single day and choose greatness. And to me, that shift from being charismatic and talented to being focused and disciplined and choosing greatness, that has changed my life. That has been a massive shift. And the just on that, there's two quotes come to mind. Henry Ford, you can't build a reputation on what you're going to do. And Peter Drucker, behavior is believable. Totally. Totally. And, I think we've bought into a flawed definition of entrepreneurship, right? We are everywhere we look, the stories of entrepreneurship that we're being told are people dropping out of college and raising millions and selling for billions. And it's this story that A is like 0.1% of the entrepreneurial story, and B has, a 99% chance of failing. So putting those stats aside, it's not true. That's not the true story of entrepreneurship. The true story is people waking up every day, doing good work day after day after day, and having that add up to something that they can be proud of. And so really releasing this idea that I had to be a certain way and actually just focusing on getting good work done day after day after day, and letting it tell the story, letting the proof, tell the story.
Yeah.
The other one that has been phenomenal is someone said to me, you can be a star or you can be a leader. Stars go, do star things. Leaders build stars. And I love that, because I think I was so young and I've got this big personality, I was very quickly made a star. And I've really been thinking about what it looks like to very consciously transition from a star to a leader in the literal sense. And how do I take whatever I have, my experience, my resources, and build other stars? So I've been thinking a lot about that.
Yeah, good. What's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
We call it pause and reflect. Half an hour a week to stop being busy, stop running around like chicken with your head cut off, turn off your phone, pause, reflect, and ask yourself a very simple question. Am I hitting my goals? What actions have I taken, right? Why or why not? And consistently, just week by week, in small steps, keep tweaking actions, tweaking behaviors, tweaking marketing strategies, tweaking the things that you're doing in your effort to hit your financial goals.
Yep, totally agree. Absolutely.
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager.
Can you talk to how you added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah. So we have a great global team. We went remote 8 years ago, far before it was sort of trendy. Everyone thought I was a crazy person.
COVID cool. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we have team members, I think, in 14 different countries, or maybe even more at this point. So we're fully remote. I think I have a couple of thoughts. Number one is talent is equal. I have found great people in places like Colombia and Ecuador and Nigeria, and just as good as Australia and America and Canada. In fact, sometimes often better. So this idea that talent needs to look a certain way or come from where we're from, I don't subscribe to that. The second thing that I would just say is that even though we're remote, we're very structured. We have a very clear sort of rhythm as a team. We've got deep standards and processes. And so one of the things that I think a lot about in building a team is, if I want those people to succeed, what's their responsibility and what's my responsibility? And having really clear boundaries around that, right? These are the things I need to do to help people succeed. And these are the things I need to expect and hold people accountable to. And so we have a system called STP, which is when something goes wrong, we look and say, is the system wrong? Is the training wrong? Or is this ultimately a people issue? Yeah. And we as the company have the responsibility for system and training. So we go to us first. Okay, did that breakdown happen because the system isn't good? Well, let's fix the system. Did that breakdown happen because the training isn't good? Okay, well, let's fix the training. No, the system is good. They've been trained. This is a people issue, right? First people issue, that's them. But if the people issue persists, then we have a performance management process. So just really trying to have responsibility on our part and accountability on the team members' part so that we can build a functional team.
Yep. And what are some things you'd recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Yeah, it's good. Really, one of the things that we've done is try to be really focused on the team's wellness. So we give everyone 2 weeks off between Christmas and New Year's. We do 2 silver holidays a year, one in the spring, one in the fall, which are just 5 days off company-wide for rest and relaxation. We have an unlimited time away policy that we ask people to respect. We really try to respect people's freedom. And at the same time, we try to do things that are very grounding. We have a team meeting every Wednesday morning, everyone there. I'm always there. I don't miss it. Every team meets a couple times a week to huddle and work. We have a very clear, transparent sort of results tracking system so everyone sees exactly what's happening. And so I think the combination of being focused on the people and trying to let them live a life that they are happy and fulfilled and well, as well as having deep structure and grounding in what success looks like, how they're doing, taking any mystery out of what's happening in the business. The combination of those two things has been really important for our culture.
Yep. And tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Well, listen, in 2020, I don't think I could offer any, do as I say, not as I do. I've been working a crazy amount. Yeah. So for me, I've got three things that I know. So I don't have balance. I work a ton. I love my work. I work a ton. I live in New York City where, it's the city of unbalance. But I do know that I've got three things that sort of restore me, that make me the best version of myself. One is being in water. So I am rigorous about getting myself into oceans, pools, hot tubs, swimming, anything, because it restores me. It's like taking 3 days off for me, being in the water for an hour. So I do that whenever I can. Reading, I'm a voracious reader.
Mm-hmm.
I try to read a novel a week so that I have an escape that is not just always business and self-help and all the things that I traditionally would read. And then people. I love humans so much. And so going to a show or getting on a Zoom with my nieces and just playing games or, whatever I can do to be connected to people, and to really celebrate who they are. Going to theater is one of my favorite things because I just always sit there and I'm in awe of, the humans that it took to make this thing happen. So I find other humans incredibly inspirational. So I don't focus on balance. I do focus though on restoration so that I'm taking care of myself so that I can continue to operate at the pace I operate.
Yeah, good. What about professional development? How much have you invested in yourself over the years?
A lot. I am the product of tens of thousands of dollars of professional and personal development. I'm a believer that every entrepreneur should have a therapist. I've done tons of therapy, executive coaching, leadership programs. The more I know, the less I know. And so I have done lots of one-on-one coaching and therapy. I've done lots of group programs. I've done lots of online courses. I would say that I'm sort of in the category of being open to anything and, seeking it out. Listen, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't, right? SLAP is based in this concept. And I for sure know, there's no question about it. The more learning I'm doing and the more support and accountability I have, the better person I am, and then the better business I can grow.
Yep. And have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Tons. Yeah, I've been very, very lucky. Now, I do want to say, because I think this is important, I'm a middle-class girl from a small city in Canada, the middle of nowhere, from farming families. I was not born into privilege from a sort of social network point of view. I didn't go to a fancy college. I don't have some big alumni network. So sometimes people will look at me and say, well, how, you got these great business advisors. I cold called them. I stalked them. I sent them things. I found out where they were speaking. I asked them for coffees afterwards. That didn't happen by accident, and it didn't happen because I'm fancy, because I'm not. I'm a regular person. But it happened because I was incredibly intentional, and I really did seek it out and invest in building those people into my life. And so if I can have the type of support I've had from incredible advisors and coaches and mentors, I believe that is available to everyone.
Well, I think it's a misconception by a lot of business owners that they couldn't access anyone else's time, especially pro bono. And I correct that and just say you would be surprised how willing people are to give of their time, especially those that are, the business is going all right now, that they're through the woods and they want to give back. They want to help people avoid going through the pain and mistakes they did. So just ask like one coffee a month or a beer a month, or lunch.
That's exactly right. Yeah, no, people are good. People are mostly good. I mean, it's hard to see that in the world sometimes, but there are lots of good people who really do want to help. That is definitely true.
And board of directors or advisors, do you have one at the moment?
Yep, for both Silver Lining and the lending fund.
Yep, great. And so do you sit on that board or do you report into the board for Silver Lining?
I sit on it. Yeah, for both. Yeah. So we're still privately held. I still own the company. So they're sort of on this lending side, they have a small amount of equity. On the Silver Lining side, it's volunteer. Although we're looking at building a success sharing pool. So not equity, but some sort of a revenue share for them. But they are there to sort of support us and also very much, speak truth to me and hold us accountable.
And how often was the board meeting pre-COVID?
So everything is global at Silver Lining. So everything is virtual. So nothing has changed actually that much for us in COVID because we were already operating virtually. But each board meets one time a month, kind of 90 minutes a month.
Yep, great. All right, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Juggling the complexity of just the volume, the different hats you have to wear. And again, I'm lucky. We're at a point where that's not as true for me. I've got team and management team, and I've divided those responsibilities. But when I look at our small businesses who are still, doing it all, I just think it's very hard to do everything well.
Yep. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
There's a great book called Integrity by a guy named Dr. Henry Cloud, and it changed my life. Read it.
I will. I'm adding it to my list right now.
Right.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your professional development?
Yeah, I'm such a weirdo. I hardly ever listen to podcasts. I'm a very visual person, so I read voraciously. But there's a couple of podcasts that we make our team listen to a lot. One is actually going back to being a manager. There's a podcast host named Mamie Canfor-Stewart who does one on being a good manager. That's a great podcast. And then I use Masterclass a lot. I love listening and learning through Masterclass. And then I really do my best learning with people though. So my big strategy is whenever I see someone that I think is interesting or compelling or has done something that I think is cool, I am known for sending random emails on a regular basis saying, you don't know me, but I saw this thing you did and I think it's really cool.
Yep.
We have a coffee. So I would say I've done hundreds of those random coffees and learned the most from other humans.
Yep. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Slack.
Yeah. Apart from your own product and services?
That's a good question. Listen, there's a lot. We use Podio. It's a great, very affordable online collaboration workspace. So as people are operating virtually, I would say that one.
Great. Final and my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
It's going to be okay. Pace yourself and don't do it alone.
Great. Thank you very much for your time, Carissa. The audience will get a lot out of what you've shared with us today, and congratulations on your journey. And always good to hear the ups as well as the downs. So I think there's a lot of good learnings there for everyone. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And for our audience, we'd greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.